Hey man, stay safe world. You already know what's going on, man. We got to talk about 100K Track. He's YNW Melly's manager and the former manager King Von, who's every artist that he manages somehow manages to find their way in jail or dead. We got to talk about all this and how his career is like super suspicious. But before we get into all that, I'm gonna need y'all to like, comment, subscribe, and let's run this up. So 100K Track is like a guy that is super like well known in the industry when it comes to like gangster rap. I guess the new version of gangster rap, really. He's managed the likes of King Von, Wop, YNW Melly, probably other artists that we haven't really heard of too, but he's like super like in the mix, in case you haven't known. He's also like one of those managers who also isn't afraid to release music. He's actually released a song with YNW Melly, but we're gonna get into that later, man. But one of the major things that we have to talk about is like all three of those artists that I mentioned, and there's probably more, are, I guess, highly street affiliated artists, and all three of them are either dead or in jail. When you look at King Von, he was managing King Von when King Von was killed in Atlanta. I think he was actually shot too with King Von, so I guess that wasn't entirely his fault. But then you look at Muwab from the O. He's also King Von's homie, alleged shooter of FBG Duck. He ends up in jail for the alleged shooting of FBG Duck and like basically getting a paid hit. We don't really know more of the details, but police are basically putting together that maybe he had something to do with it. I made a whole video on this previously. And then on top of King Von and Muwab, we got YNW Melly, who's currently facing like the death penalty in Florida, man. So obviously, whatever this guy is doing, I don't know what the hell he's doing. I mean, I guess it's getting them into a place where they're seen by the public, but isn't the role of a manager supposed to be to prevent this type of shit from happening? Like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, it's like, bro, what? Like, his artists are definitely not in the type of position that they need to be to succeed. And we're gonna go through each one of these artists and sort of talk about sort of what happened to them and like where it stands and why I feel like it was super sus that this guy is managing everything behind it, because there's a lot of like weird inconsistencies. So we can start with King Von. So in case you didn't know, about 2 years ago, King Von was killed outside of a hookah lounge in Atlanta, Florida. It was actually a high incident area where there's been several shootings since then in the Atlanta area. It's like a hot spot. I think someone else actually recently died there earlier this year. But basically, he was with King Von when this happened. But I don't know what exactly is going through these people's minds, but as a manager, you would think that you should like not be going to like sus hole in the wall clubs in a city that you're not even from. You know, that's like step one. On top of that, like King Von already had like a whole case that he had with Lil Durk that he was fighting, where they basically like had like them tied up in another shooting that occurred in the Atlanta nightlight scene. So that in itself was already like not smart. Like, you should be getting your client to really like not just do whatever. I mean, like, you should, I guess if they want to have fun, they can have fun, but like that seems like kind of sus. On top of the fact that he didn't really even have security or anything. I think he went into detail in a story that he was saying that it was just kind of a quick moment decision to just go to the club and go do this. But it's like, when you're a huge A-list celebrity, basically, he was like going off at that point in his career. He was really like blowing up. Like every week it was like a new milestone. He was going crazy. You would think that people would stop this from occurring and stop people from going out, you know, but he just went out with them. And what kind of manager is getting turned with the artist? Aren't you the person that's supposed to be paying attention? I know they pay security for this and shit, but like, really, at the end of the day, man, like, I don't know. But I feel like his whole argument behind this, we're gonna get into it more, but it's like, I guess he's kind of says that these artists are street dudes and they could really handle themselves. So he's really just like, he tries to point them in the right direction, but ultimately he can't force them to do something, which we're gonna get into further. But let's continue. So another one of his artists is Hot Boy, who recently caught a RICO case. It's just like, how is this even possible? He manages another dude that, like, all his artists are in jail or dead. It's so crazy, man. Like, Hot Boy, he was like kind of in the news because he was facing a RICO case in Orlando, basically a gang racketeering case, where they basically said that, like, he was like basically, him and Glock 9 and their whole gangs were basically orchestrating a large-scale gang like in movement throughout the city of Orlando, and was basically at war. And that's his artist. So obviously another reason why how he's not really doing anything that's really benefiting these artists. Like in the standard manager sort of agreement on a contract, they usually get at least like 20% of the artist's revenue. So he's getting like 20% of all these artists' revenue, or maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But he's like really just getting all this bread from all these people, man. It's kind of sad. You look at Muab also. Muab, he's like I said, was King Von's like homie and artist who got wrapped up in the FBG Duck shooting. Allegedly, they're thinking that he was actually the one that shot with like 3 or 4 other people basically, and then they have basically video surveillance of them running out of a house in the south side of Chicago when FBG Duck was spotted, and them racing over to him. So it's basically a closed case, and that's another one of his artists. So what is that? That's so far 3 artists, and 1 of them is dead. 2 of them are facing like really crazy charges and shit. And then the last one that we got is YNW Melly, who he also, I mean, somewhat got wrapped into the case and ended up having to cooperate with the feds, basically giving away his phone or whatever. But that's another person that he didn't fucking pay attention to enough, that basically is getting accused of killing their 2 friends. And in case you didn't notice, basically they dropped 160 pages or something like that, saying that YNW Melly, like the evidence that they had against him basically, and it's not really looking good for him. But him and his mom have been going day to day saying like that he's coming home in May. They've been saying that for years now, and we're just waiting. And these are just a couple of examples, but it's just so crazy that you can, I don't even know how as an artist you trust someone where literally all your artists are in jail or dead. And I feel like the main argument that he kind of says behind it is the fact that he kind of helps street dudes, so it's like they're more likely to end up like this. But it's like, isn't the point of being a rapper to get out of the streets? You're obviously not getting them good enough deals that they're able to get out of the streets or whatever the fuck they're doing, and it's obviously not helping their like way of life if they're still having to resort back into the street shit. And yeah, they're from the streets, but it's like there's artists that are from the streets that are able to get past it. Like look at Lil Durk. I mean, sure, the people around him are still in the streets, but he's not physically still in the streets, you know, like he's not getting caught up in these RICO cases or anything like that. So that's just that. But at the end of the day, man, it's where I don't know, I can't really name an artist from him that is actually succeeding and getting out of that life. Like every one of his artists are in jail or dead, literally. It's not even a joke. It seems like he's bad luck, man. The worst manager in the world. I mean, sure, he gets some potential and shit, but I don't really know what exactly happens after that. But let me know in the comments if you think that it's all just a coincidence and it's not his fault that all these people are locked up. Real stay safe shit. You already know what's going on. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.